So much of the internet is just now discovering that Lara Croft, yes, the classic Lara Croft, was race swapped from being a Latina Laura Cruz to the British Lara Croft we all know and love. Well, she's kind of changed a lot now, so kind of unrecognizable. But at least the character who rose to iconic fame. Some people are really salty about the fact that she was changed, but let's go ahead and dive a little bit more into the history of Lara Croft. Let's discuss this. Let's talk about what's going on, because there is some misinformation and some cherry picking that is being had here to kind of make this situation a lot more exaggerated than it currently, the actual reality of the matter is. So here we have senior character artist from Naughty Dog who says, I still think about how Tomb Raider's Lara Croft was Laura Cruz. Well, he wrote Lara Cruz because first it was Laura Cruz, then it was Lara Cruz, then it was Lara Croft. That's the technical evolution of it. For most of the development, he says, she's inspired by mixed race singer and rapper Nena Cherry, but was represented as Afro-Latina. They changed her to Lara Croft from the UK last minute as they feared audiences weren't ready. There's a bit of cherry picking and a bit of misinformation like sprinkled in this. First of all, Lara Cruz, she was not Afro-Latina in her original concept. She was Latina, and that's why we see a lot of her physical characteristics stayed. That's why when you actually look at classic Lara Croft from Tomb Raider 1, especially, she doesn't entirely look like a white girl. She's got very tanned skin. They progressively made her more white, a lighter skin as the games continued, and especially now, which is funny, like the modern games now, is she's like whiter than ever. Well, she was pretty white in Angel of Darkness. She's pretty fair, but regardless, like yeah, she wasn't Afro-Latina just because she was inspired by Nena Cherry. They like to sprinkle them, but also fail to mention that she was also inspired by Tank Girl as well, who is a white character. So I do feel like that is a little bit of convenient picking and choosing who to talk about when you're really talking about her inspirations and stuff like that. But as you can see, this definitely gives like that like a Latina character vibe. They even gave her the hoop earrings, all that. So I personally love this iteration, and I have been saying for a long time now. See, here's another concept. This is something I've been saying for a long time now, is I wish that they would go back to more of the older character design for Lara Croft. I don't think that they should go back. I don't think they should reverse and change her to Latina, because she already has been officially British from the actual game itself. But I wouldn't mind if they actually gave her more of the characteristics, the tan skin, the full lips, all that. Or yeah, make her look more like she used to look. I'm good with that. Or even white people in general. Like, a lot of us are mixed. Like, I'm mixed with Native American. So there is no reason why a Lara Croft can't look like this, or how she was originally intended to look, right? There's no reason why they can't do that. So I get it. I'm not opposed to that. But I do feel like there is being some cherry picking and how the wording is being said and all that, to basically say, and then to say they changed it last minute as they feared the audiences weren't ready. This is the thing, is that this was a British studio, and this is where it shows where you really can't win when it comes to a lot of the woke narrative, for example, is that had they moved forward with this and they made Lara Croft South American as they wanted to, given that the people on the team were white and British, then there would be complaints that, oh, well, she was written by white people. She was created by white people. They can never know. They can never understand the character. And how many times do we see that, to where it's like, oh, white people aren't allowed to write characters of other races. White people aren't allowed to voice characters of other races. White people aren't allowed to design characters of other races. This continues to be something that is complained about among the woke mob. And if, it's in terms of Dell, I'm not calling him woke or a woke mob or any of this. I don't know who he is, so this isn't a dig or attack at him. I don't know where he got all of his information. I do think that some of it is conveniently said in a way that is misleading, but to some degree at least. But still, I digress. He's allowed to have his opinion. This isn't a dig or knock at him. All right. So they did change Lara Croft's name from Laura to Lara because they thought that Americans wouldn't be able to pronounce it properly, which is funny because they say Laura all the time instead of Lara. So that kind of backfired. So as you can see here in this snippet, this is where Toby Gard, he is the creator of Lara Croft. He didn't write the character, he designed her. Okay, he does get a lot more. He gets a lot more credit than he deserves for Lara Croft's character. I'm not even gonna lie there. So the actual writer for Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, okay, classic Tomb Raider, she joined in like 1995, is Vicky Arnold. Toby Gard is constantly being credited as the creator of Lara Croft. And yes, he did create Lara Croft, but Vicky Arnold actually wrote the character, wrote her bios in the manuals and even in the 8-page comic that they released in the past. And then she wrote the games. Okay, so she was responsible. But let's actually look at this article even that he shared here, which I believe, let's see if it's it's not easier to read there. But anyway, here's where it talks about how Toby Gard argued with the team about wanting to make Lara female. Okay, now this is actually legit. It's actually what happened, is that he did have to fight to have a female lead character because people didn't think that, that they would want, they weren't sure that people would want to play as a female lead character. Okay, he says here there weren't any girls in video games at all then, which isn't entirely true, but there weren't many, okay? We had Samus Aran, okay? Put some respect to the name. But still, there weren't many, and he was right there. He says, sure, there were a few single women figures, for example, in Virtual Fighter, but still no games that revolved completely around a heroine, which isn't entirely true. I mean, let's look at Metroid. Granted, you didn't even discover that she was a woman until like the end of the first Metroid game, but still, whatever, we're just gonna ignore that. With the decision made to break with convention, the male character was confined to the delete button and sadly wiped off his computers forever, says Jeremy. Now, Jeremy was like Jeremy Heath Smith. The Heath Smith brothers were responsible for Tomb Raider. How sad is that? How cool would it be to actually see now? He says, okay. So anyway, here was one of his arguments, and that Toby always said was that, like, for example, he wanted to do things a bit different. He wanted a female lead because that wasn't common back then. And he also wanted her to be British because you typically see villains portrayed as British and the protagonist as American. And in this case, he wanted to do things different, okay? We saw that the antagonist, Natla, she had an American accent, and then the protagonist, she was British, and so he switched things up. It was fun. It was all fun and good, right? During this period, Core continued to employ new staff, new employees, programmer Paul Douglas, I guess this is collabed him the first day he arrived. Okay, they were happy with him, which I kind of have mixed feelings about Toby Gard in general because, while obviously he did create the iconic Lara Croft in a lot of ways, I think Vicky Arnold is responsible for the more important parts, how she was written, and Lara Croft wouldn't have been the icon that she was had Vicky Arnold not written her, in my opinion. That being said, obviously I appreciate a lot of what Gard has done, and I think he's a legend for even, conceptualizing Lara Croft. But I think what really puts me off is how much he's constantly backtracked, how much he pulls, he retcons stuff and pretends oh, this didn't happen, or this didn't happen later on down the road. He cites that he left the production, he cites that he left Core Design because he thought they were sexualizing Lara Croft too much, which by the second game, she wasn't overly sexualized at all, which is a lot of people don't understand, and that's one reason why they like to act like Lara was nothing but a sexual object is because they just take bits and pieces from interviews like this instead of the truth of the situation, what actually happened. But then he came back for Tomb Raider Legend to where she was sexualized more than ever. So again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So I do have a lot of, I feel like he talks out of both sides of his mouth a lot. But again, I will always have respect for him for creating Lara Croft in the involvement that he did have in that. So now let's talk about the name. Although Core had now settled on the female lead, they still hadn't decided on a name for their heroine. It seems a simple decision, but in-game design, even a character name, can be subject to the marketing men. A number of names were flirted with or rumored to have existed. The original name that all parties agree on is Laura Cruz, then later Lara Cruz. Guy Miller came up with it because coming up with names isn't my thing, said Guard. In the initial proposal phase, he helped put together some of the documents for pitching, and he came up with the name because I wasn't keen on making names, so Laura Cruz. The Americans couldn't say it, says Jeremy Heath Smith. They couldn't say Laura. They couldn't get their heads around it. It's the way they pronounced the R, which is funny because they were wrong. It gives you a headache. They said we find that really hard, and we were like, fine, just change it. I didn't like the fact that she was named Cruz because it didn't fit in with making her very, okay, and that was cut off there. They changed a lot of her backstory, and they made her British to fit with the backstory, right? Okay, so they wanted her to be this rich, upper class, aristocratic woman, and that's why they changed her name. It wasn't because audiences weren't ready. I don't understand why why those choice of words were used in this tweet. And like I said, I feel like this is very misleading as to what happened with the actual production of Tomb Raider and Lara Croft. This wasn't a case of, oh, we have this, what he's saying, Afro-Latina, which she was never Afro-Latina. She was just Latina. They didn't say, oh, let's change her, let's whitewash her because audiences aren't ready. They changed her to fit the backstory, and even so, they didn't change her appearance at all. Okay, they took the earrings off. But as you can see in the actual game, she's tan-skinned, she's full lips, she looks the same as she does in her concept art. All right? They did not, this is not a case of, oh, just whitewashing a character of color. This was them just, okay, this fit the backstory that they wanted for her, but her appearance is very much the same. They didn't change her until further down the road that they did make her more light-skinned down the road, right? And that's something that myself and a lot of other classic fans haven't liked, and not even for the sake of, colorism or any other reason, but just more so for the fact that, hey, it fit her character. This is how she originally was created to look like, and why wouldn't they make it more, why wouldn't they stick with the accuracy of it? Not only that, but she's constantly outside, so why wouldn't she have a tan? And so that is one thing I find funny and jarring, especially with the reboots, is she's so freaking white, and it's like, dude, she's out all the time. Why is her skin this light? They did change her appearance, definitely a lot more white girl looking, conventional white girl looking than what she used to look like, even in Tomb Raider 1. So, I mean, and now, like, the new studio is woke, so it's funny how, technically, I guess they're not even woking, right? But anyway, I wanted to make this video to kind of clear the air a little bit and to kind of explain the actual history of Lara Croft and her creation. And, this just went pretty viral, but it's not entirely accurate. She wasn't changed, and it wasn't even necessarily a last-minute change. It was a change in her story to fit the storyline that it was a change in her character to fit the storyline. And it had nothing to do with audience wouldn't accept her. I mean, the fact that she's inspired by Nena Cherry, who had fame. Okay, if audiences weren't ready and if audiences were so racist, then why was she famous? To even have been not only an inspiration, but cited as an inspiration as well. But, this is just something I wanted to clear the record on. And then you see here, I love when people say, why were Lara Croft's lips so big? And I know the real reason is because a British game dev saw the music video of a girl rapping about her curls in the early 90s and fell in love. I mean, white people can have big lips too, but I mean, fair enough that she did have the full lips that are more characteristic of not white people in a lot of cases. But regardless, even then though, dude, I know some white people with huge lips, man. Like full on very, very, very white people that have huge lips. So it does happen. But I think we can all agree though that she was designed to look Latina, and that did stay in her actual character in Tomb Raider 1. But no, the changes weren't because they thought the audiences would be racist or they thought the audiences wouldn't accept a Latina character. It was simply for the fact that they wanted to have an aristocratic character. They changed her backstory because of they wanted like an upper class British woman, and probably too it made it easier because the team is British, and so it was a lot easier for them to portray a story of a character of a background that they would have related to and understood more. I do not think in any case that this had anything to do with audiences being perceived as racist or not accepting it. So anyway, there you have it for this video. There's me just clearing the air there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, go boom.
I won't obey you.